Grinding wheat into flour is such a healthy way to add whole grains to your diet. A lot of times we think that when we get the wheat flour from the store that we're eating a whole grain, when actually we're not. When they take it for the store, they take out the endosperm because that makes it so that it lasts longer, and they also take out the bran. And if they're going to sell you the wheat flour, all they do is add in a little bit of the bran. So you're missing some of that actual grain. And wheat maintains all of its nutrients right up until the point that you grind it. After that point, it begins to lose nutrients, particularly after 3 months. So generally speaking, I only grind enough wheat to last for 3 months. And so that means since you're getting it nice and fresh, you're getting the most nutrients out of your flour that you can. I have 2 different kinds of wheat grinders here. This one is kind of a nice little tabletop one, and it's perfect for if I want to do small amounts of something. Like if, say, I want to do some oat flour or something that's a little bit more specialized. I could do it in this one, but it's a little bit of overkill because I probably only need a little bit of it. This one is very similar to the one that my mom had when I was young, and it is such a great one for if I want to do bulk amounts. They both function similarly. They have the lid that covers the little hopper area. This one has more of a bowl, this one has more of a tray, so this one will hold a greater quantity. If you look underneath the bowl, you can actually see where the stones are. And there's a little adjustment on this right here where I can adjust how far down this pushes, which changes the pressure on the stones and makes them closer together or farther apart so that I get a more coarse or fine flour. This older fashioned one, which is actually kind of my favorite, it has the spout that goes down into the stones and then it grinds the stones here. On the back of this unit is actually a lever that will adjust the amount of space in between these stones, which has the same effect, makes it a more fine or a more coarse flour. When I go to use my wheat grinder, it doesn't matter which one I use, I want to turn it on and get those stones moving first before I put the wheat in. Otherwise, it'll get a large amount in there and then it'll be a lot more effort for it to get started. If it's moving already, it begins making the flour immediately. So I turn it on, I start loading up my hopper with my wheat, and then for this little one, it should just come straight out of the spout and into my bowl. After the texture starts coming out, I can usually tell if it's the fineness that I want, and that's when I tend to do my fine tuning and my adjusting on that. One of the ways that you can tell, if you can't tell just by looking at it, is get some of the flour in your hand and rub it between your fingers, and you can see just how granular it is. For the bigger machine, it's very similar. I just put the wheat right in the hopper. This one is actually a lot more fun to watch and reminds me of when I was a kid. I can remember feeling like they looked like little ants as they were migrating down into the hole because it kind of shakes, and then of course the gravity causes it to fall in the hole anyways. My kids have also enjoyed watching that. I have to admit, there's a lot of nostalgia with this older machine for me, and it works so well. If I had to choose, hands down, I would go for the antique ones any day. This one is a little different in that you can't see it right away because the flour drops down into the drawer, but it's so nice because it doesn't make flour go into the environment, so I'm not breathing it in. I've found that if I do the other one too long, I almost feel like I have a cold or an allergy or something just from breathing in all of that flour. So for the magic mill, I have to open the drawer and check the texture. And I do feel like the lever on the back of this is so much easier to use as far as fine tuning goes. So again, I turn the machine on and then I load up the hopper. Generally speaking, I only replace 25% of my white flour with wheat flour in a recipe. One of the things I like to do is add some legumes or seeds to my flour to give it a higher protein and more nutrients still. In fact, one of my favorite ones to do is to make Ezekiel flour, and I'll add that to it. So go ahead and take a look at my video for that if you want to see how to do it. If you haven't done whole wheat in the past, it might take you a little bit. You might have to slowly increase the amount of wheat that you put in there because it does make a heavier bread. If you add some vital gluten, it can add a little bit of fluffiness to it so that it's not quite so heavy. And the other problem is that you can actually get loose stools if you do too much of this because you're not accustomed to all of that fiber that's in it. Once you're used to it, it's not an issue. But if you're new to wheat flour, just keep that in mind.